I think what often happens with industrial heritage is that the focus has been is on the aesthetics, right? This industrial aesthetic, which is often very beautiful and very haunting. And so the challenge is to go beyond aesthetics to sort of think about, like you're saying, the lives lived, the work that was done in these places, and the relationship between these industrial sites and the communities around it. And of course, Griffintown and Darling Foundry was located in Griffintown, was one of the earliest sort of industrial working class neighborhoods in Montreal. A very historic neighborhood with a lot of history. Now the challenge, of course, is that neighborhoods change, and at one point it may have been sort of more Irish working class, but it's no longer Irish working class. And so, in the act of remembering, we don't want to erase histories that came after, right? And I think when we think about neighborhood change and often perhaps more diversity, right? New kinds of stories, new kinds of histories. So ideally, you want a space where you can put those in dialogue, right? That it's not a hard border, right? So ideally, I think when we interpret the past, we want to sort of connect that past with the present, right? Or take it up to the present if possible. I think that allows us to sort of bridge ourselves into the past, but also think about the changes themselves, and those changes become visible. And sometimes industrial heritage is too static or too that hard border, um, which can actually end up depoliticizing and so on. Absolutely, naming is hugely important, and there's so much erasure is accompanied that accompanies deindustrialization, right? That we see the destruction of industrial buildings, industrial neighborhoods, the dispersal of communities, histories that are essentially shredded. And so by naming, we have an opportunity to remember. Um, Now, of course, remember what, remember who. Often again, you know, a critique of industrial heritage again is that we remember maybe there's a nostalgia towards maybe industrial work or industrial culture, but we don't remember conflict. We don't remember social movements that have contributed so much. So I in naming, I think I think there is value in naming people who are maybe not known, right? Like not the obvious people, or events or movements, right? Or different kinds of work, perhaps, that allows people to sort of think and question, right? It's not just iconic, right? It's not just an act of branding, and there's so much branding that goes on within sort of the event city, the post-industrial city. So I think a process that allows people to reflect and maybe to encourage people to sort of engage with that history. So it's not closing that down, but it's actually opening it up. I think digging down into that history of the Darling Foundry itself, and uncovering some of the unknown stories there would be, and to actually bring that out into that street in the naming process, I think I think that could be really quite beautiful. Because that foundry history isn't just within those walls, right? It's within the wider community, and so and that space in front of the Darling, of course, is connected. So yeah. I think the past isn't just in the past, and so if you can put the past and the present into dialogue, and that's a good foundation to thinking about the future. And so again, a space that doesn't just answer questions, but actually poses them and encourages people to sort of want to hear more. I think that has pedagogical value and citizenship value, I'd even say. And it's a, it's a neighborhood that was split in half by a highway, that was, demolished and, in all kinds of ways rebranded. Um, Parts of it rebranded one way and part of it rebranded another way. And so with that sort of space, you can sort of think about not acts of continuity, but there's their anchors, I guess, in time that have value in a place that's transforming, rapidly, and no doubt will continue to change rapidly.